Do 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 do. Hey, weeaboof. Want to hear a knock knock joke? Sure. Knock knock. Who's there? New avatar. New avatar who? New avatar who dis? That's right, everyone. Your boy got a new avatar. Pretty kawaii, right? I even got some fresh new kicks. I also got a new mic. Since I am switching to anime essays, I kinda wanted to rebrand myself. Anywho, remember in the last video when I said I was gonna try to pump out these videos weekly? Yeah, well, not so much a lie. I just want to make sure I deliver quality videos that I'm happy with. So while I may get punished by the YouTube algorithm gods for not posting weekly, hopefully the extra time I put into my videos will make up for it. Not to mention that I also work full time, am a graduate student, and have a family to support. But enough about me. So don't forget to lightly tap that subscribe button, double check that you very gently boink to the like button, be sure to follow me on the tweet place, and let's get into why you clicked the video in the first place. While part of me wishes I was cool and primarily consumed weeb content in the manga format, I still find myself always watching the anime adaptation instead. Admittedly, I know the manga version of a work is usually better, that is, of course, with the exception of the timeless adaptation of the Bible known as VeggieTales. However, at the end of the day, when I'm sitting on my couch, I find it much easier to start watching anime on my phone versus walking all the way over to my bookshelf and grabbing a manga to read. That, and the fact that I always like having the option available to dive further into new source material whenever I want, because when you're all caught up in the manga, there's nothing left to do but cue the mini violin. But don't get me wrong, when I watch a seasonal anime that I'm really enjoying, the temptation to continue on in the manga is definitely there.
This isn't the shonen anime I normally watch.
And I'm usually pretty good at practicing self-control in my life. For example, I only ever ordered 3 dozen donuts on my daily trip to Krispy Kreme, but in 2019, for the first time in my life, I caved. I couldn't wait for the next episode to air, so I put on my dollar store reading glasses and pulled an all-nighter. And the inspirational piece of work? One Punch Man Season 2. Now I know some of you are probably looking at your screens with confusion right now. Really, weeaboof? One Punch Man Season 2? Don't you mean Season 1? Just hear me out and put those brass knuckles away. I didn't make this video to say OPM Season 2 is better than OPM Season 1, because I think the general consensus is that it wasn't. Just like the majority of the anime community, the first season of One Punch Man blew me away. So when Season 2 was announced, I was beyond hyped. Evidently, I was very tempted to read the OPM manga after Season 1 finished, but at the time, I didn't want to get my first volume of One Punch Man dirty from my glazed Krispy Kreme hands. So, like a good boy, I waited. It's also worth noting that my ideal choice of anime intake is to wait for a show to finish airing and then binging the entirety of it in a day or two. Yet when it comes to big titles like OPM, I generally watch it weekly to stay in the loop of things and avoid spoilers. Now if I'm being honest, I completely went into Season 2 of One Punch Man with nostalgia glasses. After the first few episodes aired, I think deep down I knew it wasn't as good as its predecessor, but I was still hyped nonetheless. And I remember the hype reaching its first climax during this scene right here. Now that's not quite how I remembered the clip, but I love this scene because it is simultaneously pure hype and a reminder of how the series systematically works. I remember talking about this scene for hours with my undergrad friends. It was just one of those things that you can't get out of your head. Furthermore, there wasn't some mystical or comprehensive thought process that motivated me to start reading the manga, and I wasn't necessarily dying to know what happened next in the story. I simply wanted to relive that genuine experience of hype and happiness I felt in Saitama and Garo's first encounter. And wow, was I able to relive that experience tenfold. But while I wouldn't trade this experience for anything, I can't decide if this was the best or worst decision of my life. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a bit, but as of recording this video, One Punch Man is the only series that I am currently caught up with in the manga. I have over 400 anime entries on Mao. I've read my fair share of manga, and yet I've only experienced waiting for a new chapter to be published through OPM. Side note, this is not including the webcomic as I am currently abstaining from it. And overall, it's a wild experience. When a new chapter is released, it's like waking up to mom's Saturday morning breakfast. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet of eggs, bacon, French toast, sausage, hash browns, and fruit galore. It is truly a magical moment. Yet, you can't help but feel a little bit of sadness in you grow as you're stuffing your face. That's because it's bittersweet. You know that soon you're gonna be full, and you won't be able to experience this moment again by your own choice. Tomorrow, you're gonna go right back to plain old Raisin Bran. No offense to those of you who like Raisin Bran. Actually, all offense. Raisin Bran is nasty. In continuing, as the days go by and your memories of the breakfast fades, you start to think to yourself you can wait a couple of chapters to read on, or that you're fine with just cereal. But once you smell the rich aroma from the kitchen again the following feast, you can't help yourself from grabbing a fork and knife again. That analogy went on longer than I originally intended it to, but I hope I was able to successfully express my feelings towards the manga chapter release waiting process. That, or at the very least, I just made you hungry. I'm assuming it's the latter. It's just like my great-grandma always said, if you're ever talking about a guy who can solve problems with one punch, make sure you don't skip out on lunch. But my overall point is, the only negatives that really come from reading a manga as it is being published is primarily dictated on the qualitative positives that stem from the chapters themselves. And now to focus on the quality content of the One Punch Man manga itself, I have to say it is so good it almost hurts. Now I still genuinely enjoyed Season 2 of One Punch Man, but if its production value more closely resembled its predecessor, it might have given Season 1 a run for its money. So while I probably should have just started the manga from the beginning, admittingly, I just picked it up after the infamous karate chop scene. Let's play the clip one more time. Never gets old. So essentially, I started the manga during the Monster Raid arc. Now I could praise OPM objectively for hours, but I want to focus on the aspects of One Punch Man that I personally love. First, let's get the obvious out of the way. Jeez, can Murata draw. Sometimes I find myself in awe and just staring at a single panel for minutes on end. Like honestly, it's hard for me to think of something as impressive as its art. It's priceless. His attention to detail is unparalleled. I swear, if he was born pre-2000s, I could easily see his work featured at museums. And the art is amplified even more by One's immaculate storytelling. One is easily one of my favorite writers. I hope to one day analyze Mob Psycho as well on this channel because it is also one of my favorite series and deserving of its own video. Let's just say that if One lived during the Elizabethan era, I could easily see him outselling Shakespeare at the Globe Theatre. Everyone would be eating it up when Saitama says, "Thou art is just a man who is a hero for thy fun." One has the ability to entrap his readers. His words cast a spell on you, forcing you to happily embark on the journey that is his work. And what I find to be the most captivating of One's writing is how he uses the literary elements of character and conflict. The OPM universe is brimming with unique, strong, and fascinating characters, and One does not waste his characters. Each character plays a pivotal role in progressing the plot of the story and encompasses a proper amount of development. It might not even be a stretch to say that there are no side characters in One Punch Man. Well, maybe except for this guy. Evidently, characters in a story are chiefly analyzed through their relationships with other characters, and I would argue that there are three core character relationships within OPM. Saitama's relationship with himself, Saitama's relationship with everyone else, and everyone else's relationship with one another. Each of these relations has its own unique theme that ultimately comes together to form the overarching main theme of the story. And what theme can have real value without having gone through trial and conflict? Yet, while this is a Shonen Jump battle manga with arguably one of the strongest characters to ever exist, in terms of fighting, there is no real conflict for our main character Saitama. I mean, there might only be one thing stronger than Saitama, and that's family. But in all seriousness, Saitama's only true conflict is existential. He is conflicted with ideas concerning strength. Questions arise in the manga like, what is genuine power? What is the purpose of strength? Does vigor have an end goal? What even is it in the first place? And the tricky thing about Saitama's conflict is that it is unyielding. Since Saitama's conflict is self-imposed and he believes that the only solution is to face a worthy opponent, well, as of right now, his conflict appears unsolvable. And what makes One Punch Man so great is the irony in Saitama's critical dilemma as it relates to every other character in the series. Saitama can literally solve any of their problems. For the most part, the heroes in OPM are too prideful to realize Saitama's limitless strength. Yet if they were to simply pass the baton to Saitama, things would operate a lot smoother. And in the few times when Saitama is running the race, that being the plot of the story, Saitama typically ends up solving the physical and psychological problems of the characters at hand. Because in the face of endless power, one is forced to question if their ends justify the means. After a character truly perceives Saitama for who he is, they must debate the worth of their own ideals. Fundamentally, Saitama inadvertently forces a time of reflection on the other characters because his path of reflection is lost. And while this notion on paper may appear to be a somewhat frustrating concept, this irony is actually the beauty of One Punch Man. All in all, One has essentially crafted a genius narrative structure. Problem arises. Heroes try to solve it. If the heroes can't solve it, Saitama fixes it, whether it be intentional or unintentional. This is One Punch Man in a nutshell. And the thing is, it never gets old. There is an overwhelming level of hype every time Saitama faces off against the villain, because you know he's going to defeat him with one punch, and it's going to happen in spectacular fashion. But every time, even if it's just an insignificant amount, there's the chance you'll think to yourself, maybe, just maybe, this time Saitama's going to have trouble. But no, Saitama effortlessly beats the bad guy again, and the cycle repeats. One will carefully enhance the plot even further in a way that will make you wonder if Saitama will save the day again. You're stuck, but the funny thing is, you don't mind that you're trapped. Because you know as you continue to read the manga, you will be presented with enormous eye candy. You will be presented with rich characterization, you will get a unique and vivid take on conflict. And finally, you will always get one's writing of a specific man packing a punch. Thank you to everyone who made it to the end of the video. Since you're still here, hopefully you don't mind me giving the obligatory don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter speech again. So yeah, make sure to do that. But seriously, thanks to each and every one of you who made it this far. Be sure to look out for the next video. Oh, and I decided to keep my cringe catchphrase since I couldn't think of anything else. So remember everyone, you can't be a weeb without saying oof. Later.